Hello, friends. I'm Fight, and today I want to talk about, well, a lot of things. But so, first, to set the scene, I'm sending this to a few of my friends with various backgrounds. So, if you already know about parts of this, it's the other person's fault, of course. But I hope that you can follow along and that it will help you no matter um, whether you're a product person or C-level person or a technical person or just one of my friends. So let's get started. One thing that I did lately was build a lot of stuff. Um, and I also bought something. I bought a NVIDIA DGX Spark Founders Edition, which you can see here. I kind of connected that to my local machine, and it's running a local model, a large language model, using VLLM. So the NVIDIA DGX Spark, it's a small little box with a pretty strong GPU inside, and it can run decently sized models. Not like top of the line, not like the 450 billion parameter model kind of thing. It can run GPT OSS 120 billion, like it does in this case, which those are pretty good models. They're decently sized, they perform pretty well, and this performs at a pretty decent token per second throughput, right? It performs well enough for a lot of my use cases. Now, that's not all, right? I work with a lot of AI companies, either in strategy or implementation, or even sometimes helping them build products or even legacy companies who want to kind of work out workflows. I help them build workflows and so on. But that's not all I do, as many of you already know, right? I also have a background in compilers. I think I built my first compiler a bit over a decade ago, and in the last 9 years, I believe, I've been a co-maintainer of a programming language called carp, which is a statically compiled Lisp, right? So it's right here. It is pretty fast. It looks a little bit weird if you're not used to the syntax, but it's very powerful. It's very fast, and it has a lot of very interesting features, right? And I like working with it. But I don't just work on the compiler and the standard library. I also maintain something called the carpentry, which houses all kinds of third-party libraries, right? Anything from, I don't know, IDs and semantic version libraries to HTTP and networking and everything in between, right? And lately I've been working a lot on them. So I've built two libraries on top of other libraries that I've built in the past. One is an LLM integration layer, because I've done that a couple of times now, right? And this one supports Anthropic, OpenAI, Olama, Google Gemini, now VLLM, just through the OpenAI kind of provider, because VLLM, the one that's running on my Spark machine, is OpenAI compatible on the API level. And I also built a web framework, right? This has everything. It has routing. It looks like this. This is a full application in it, but it has everything. It has middlewares that you can log your requests. It has an ORM. It has templating. It has all of that stuff, right? And I use it to write web applications now just to test it out. And so a reasonable next step, I thought, to test it out was to use this web framework and to write a chat integration, right? I've built many chat integrations. I've built the layer underneath. So maybe I'm just going to build a little app, right? And so what I can do here, this is in the chat repository, is I can call carp x server.carp. Server.carp is just where the server is. This is all of the code for the chat application on the back end. And x means build and run, basically. Now, it's listening on, so it's ready. It's listening on a local address. And if I navigate to this local address, right, I go to a chat, right? And now what I can do in this chat is I can interact with it. I can say hi. And this is going to, it is actually GPT OSS 120. It's going to emit all of these thinking blocks and whatever, and it's going to show me. And if you now look at my framework, it now said, well, I got all of these requests over WebSocket and GET and whatever. And on my LLM machine, it actually said, well, I responded. Now, something that I'm very proud of here is that it understands HTTP, it understands WebSockets, it knows how to do JSON, it knows how to do LLMs, it knows how to talk to the database, right? It saves all of the state in the database. And I've written all of this, right? I've written all of the libraries, except for, like, on the database level, I have some glue code in C. But that's just because the library is in C. So I can interact with this, right? And this is just a standard, like, React application. And I think I kind of I just killed that. So this still happens sometimes, right? It will die sometimes because I don't know how to write React really well with WebSockets. So this is not the back end, this is actually the front end. And I let an LLM program most of this front end, but we still couldn't quite figure out how to do it well. Right. So I can ask it, who are you, which is what I think I did before, right? And I can also ask it bigger things, like, I don't know, one-shot a ping pong game in the browser. So the worst thing about this is my typing, I think. And, you know, like, this is a React, so this is not really carp that does all of the fancy markdown streaming and so on. I think still this is kind of cool. But on the carp side, all we do really is we get a lot of throughput, right? So I tested this. This serves on my machine, which is a Mac from 2022 with an M1 Max. So it's still a pretty good machine, but it's not the newest machine, and it still, like, pushes out like 50,000 requests per second, which is pretty good, I think. And on the WebSocket front, like WebSocket messages, I couldn't saturate it on the client side. I stopped measuring at 170,000 requests. So that was pretty cool. It was pretty cool to look at this. And, like, I can start another chat, right? And then it will create these two chats. And the cool thing is, like, if I force reload from scratch, it will save this because this is all saved in a database. And I'm just really excited about this because I basically built everything from the compiler upwards from scratch. I'm standing on the shoulders of giants for sure. I'm not the only one who works on the compiler. I'm not the only one who thinks about these things, and I certainly didn't program the models, right? But it is really, really cool to be able to say that most of this that's programmed here is just mine, right? And it is pretty cool to be able to say that at the end of the day, this is like 260 lines of code with all the all the empty lines and the commented lines, right? Without them, it would be maybe like 220, I guess, which is not little, but it's pretty good for a chat application that has persistence in the database, that has WebSockets, right? The WebSocket handler is actually kind of complicated. It has all of this stuff, right? And, like, it has cool things like, if you look at it, so the type of chat is just a normal, like how I would define a type, and you don't have to understand this, but how I would define a type, and then I can just say derive me a model on the database, and it will know then how to insert and um, how to create the table and all of this stuff. And that's all like just a macro that walks the type, and it works. And it's all mine. And I'm really proud of that. And I think a lot of people get really doomer about like the things that with AI and through AI they can build like stuff that is not as fun. But looking at this, like a bunch of this is AI first developed, right? You can also call it non-charitably vibe coding, but I think if I just vibed this, I wouldn't have gotten so far. But like this is really exciting, right? I like building stuff, and I built so much stuff lately, and it's so cool. Um, and like the process is different, but I don't feel like I'm not thinking hard doing this. And I think that's really cool. I think that's something worth trying out at least. You don't have to buy a Spark machine, and you don't have to become a compiler engineer, and you don't have to try LLMs. But like, it can be really fun to play around with, even if you don't use it day to day. And if you do use it day to day, they can be really productive if you do it right, right? And they can also screw up your code base. But anything can, and anything can make your code base better. And I guess that's all I have tonight. Thank you.